gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that, we having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the Queen, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
This Honourable House now resumes its sitting. Call of the roll.
Mrs. Holness, Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Holness, Dr. Clark, Dr. Chang, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Samuda, Ms. Grange, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Mallow-Fort, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Charles, Mr. Green, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Terry Long, Miss Smith, Dr. Dunn, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Main, Mr. Davis, Mr. Witter, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown-Burke, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Clark, Mr. Cousins, Miss Crawford, Miss Daly, Miss Davis, Mr. Golding, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Miss Hamilton, Miss Hannah, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lawrence, Miss Lee, Mr. Miller, Mr. Montague, Miss Morrison, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Siblist, Mr. Slowly, Mrs. Vaz, Dr. Wheatley, Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Wright. Anybody came in?
Members, just before we begin, I want to use the opportunity to welcome all our guests, those up in the gallery, and those who are joining us online, to welcome you all to this sitting of the Parliament, and a special welcome to those who are here to support our speakers this afternoon in the sectoral debate. Our two main speakers this afternoon is the Minister Minister Floyd Green, and the opposition spokesperson, Mr. Lothian Cousins. Welcome to everybody, and trust it will be an informative and good sitting. Statements by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House today are the following: Ministry Paper number 36 of 2022 and Annual Report of the Planning Institute of Jamaica for the year ended December 2020. Ministry Papers number 37 to 38 of 2022 and Annual Reports of the Tax Administration Jamaica for the financial years 2014-2015, 2015-2016, and 2016-2017, and the National Strategy to Develop Jamaica's Global Digital Services Sector 2021 to 2025.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notions of motions given orally, questions and answers to questions, motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to sittings of the House, motions for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Madam Speaker, on the matter of public business today, it is intended to resume the sectoral debate, and two speakers are scheduled for today: the Minister without Portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister, the Honourable Floyd Green, and Mr. Lothian Cousins. Madam Speaker, I ask that you invite the Member of Parliament for Southwestern Clarendon, Mr. Lothian Cousins, to make his presentation.
I now invite Mr. Cousins to make his presentation. And member, I won't tell them what you described yourself at. I don't want you to be the lone wolf this evening. So I hope other members are going to join you on your side, and we are here. I invite you to go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have no problem being the lone wolf. Sometimes when you're lonely in a certain place, you're able to see clearly rather than have the noise around you disturb you and distract you from the mission that's ahead. Madam Speaker, I want to express my appreciation to the Leader of Opposition for his confidence in me as I continue to shadow the portfolio of water and agriculture. I also want to acknowledge that my presence in this House is only made possible by the constituents of Southwestern Clarendon, who, Madam Speaker, overwhelmingly expressed their confidence by electing me to represent their interests. Madam Speaker, Southwestern Clarendon remains the single greatest prospect for Jamaica's development, based on its centrality and the presence of world-renowned assets such as the Milk River Bath and the Vernon Field Air Base. These assets are two of the island's most valuable, and over the years much has been said about their prospect for development for the local and national economy, but very little done to advance these ideas. Despite the mentioned potential, Madam Speaker, the constituency faces significant challenges with bad road infrastructure, most of which have been exacerbated by the current highway construction project. These roads, Madam Speaker, include and are not limited to Fogar Road, Denby Drive, Comfort Road, Decoy, and the Ebony Park roads, as well as the St. Jago Road. In addition to these roads, Madam Speaker, some of the communities are now at increased risk of flooding due to the highway construction. Madam Speaker, the constituency welcomes the placement and development of any asset that serves the local and national interests. However, we do not believe that any such development should impede the personal liberties and progress of the people of these communities. It should be expressly unfair, Madam Speaker, to the residents to be worse off at the end of the construction process. We are therefore serving notice, Madam Speaker, that all steps will be taken to hold the government and NROC responsible for any nuisance which has created a routine of daily distress and disruptions in the lives of our people. In the opening of the sectoral debates, Madam Speaker, on behalf of the opposition, the member from Northwestern Manchester highlighted the weaknesses in this process on which we are currently embarked. And it would be remiss of me, Madam Speaker, not to join my colleague in expressing similar concerns. Every year, Madam Speaker, we come to this Parliament on behalf of the people we represent to deliberate on matters affecting their lives and livelihoods. Yet, despite these efforts, there is little to show, and, Madam Speaker, opposing even when there's an inherent benefit for our people is not the way to handle the people's business. The views from this side, Madam Speaker, and even from some on the other side, are not given credence. This cannot, Madam Speaker, be the development pathway for Jamaica. Therefore, I too must wonder and ask, what is the purpose of this budgetary process? Are we genuinely achieving what was in the true contemplation of our forefathers when our parliamentary procedures and practices were being conceptualized? How far have we drifted from the original intent to this practice of arrogance and one-upmanship, which appears to be the new order? Let us hope, Madam Speaker, that as we continue to evolve as a society, decisions will be taken shortly to resolve the referenced issues, resulting in more robust and meaningful parliamentary debates and inclusiveness, as our sole purpose here, Madam Speaker, is to make better the lives and experience of all Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, I will now turn to the areas for which I have portfolio responsibilities, namely agriculture and water, and I will address them in that order. Madam Speaker, as I organized my thoughts for this presentation, I kept recalling statements I've made here and elsewhere regarding the looming crisis of our food insecurity. This is not the time to say, I told you so, but all the indicators point to the fact that we are in a crisis. Our multilateral partners have published data and issued warnings to governments worldwide to take preventative actions to avert a calamity. Madam Speaker, later in this presentation, I will return to the issue of food security because, Madam Speaker, the world is in a crisis and we as legislators must take action to mitigate the effects on our people. Madam Speaker, when I spoke in the sectoral debates last year, I proposed that an import substitution strategy be formulated with the single objective of cutting in half the import bill over the next 5 years. I also shared some of the strategic interventions of how this could be achieved. Because, Madam Speaker, it has been consistent from day one. In my presentations, I always try to provide solutions. I don't just complain and criticize. Madam Speaker, in that presentation, I referenced the US $933 million of food imports in 2020, and also the unacceptable record food imports of $1.025 billion in 2019. The currently released international merchandise trade data for January-December 2021 has revealed a disappointing scenario and has left me in deep pain for the country. The previous record, Madam Speaker, of US $1.025 billion of food imports in 2019 was shattered in 2021, despite all of the public attention that was given to this import bill. We shattered the record in 2021. Madam Speaker, in 2021, the value of foods that we imported into Jamaica amounted to $1,122 million United States dollars. 1.122 billion United States dollars. This is within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and the hospitality sector, the hotel industry, hovering at 53% capacity throughout the entire year. A projection was given for 65% capacity in December, the winter season, and we managed to break that record. Now I shudder to think what would have happened had we had a full opening of the tourism sector. The figures probably would have been doubled. And this is a great cause for concern for us as an opposition, because we shouldn't have exceeded any records that year. $1.122 billion of imports. Madam Speaker, the differential of 97 million United States dollars between the two record years, 2019 and 2021, is more than the average monthly value of food imports. To exceed the old record that much is a poor reflection on the stewardship of the portfolio ministry. It seems, Madam Speaker, that the gate has been flung open and this government cannot find the lock. After my sectoral presentation last year, I was engaged by friends and colleagues expressing an interest in my suggested debt in value reduction. Madam Speaker, an import substitution strategy is not a pie in the sky. It is achievable. Do you know that in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, we imported less than half of our present value of imports? When the food import categories are analyzed, because you have to do an analysis to find out where we went wrong. So we are here to provide solutions. And we are going to analyze and break it down. So if the Ministry of Agriculture is not breaking it down for the government, I am here as the opposition. I have a duty to break it down so that the Prime Minister, who is here and has always been here at all sectoral presentations, I must be commended for it. We have to commend him, because to see the Prime Minister here every time somebody is presenting is commendable.
He came to listen to you.
When the food import categories are analyzed, and it's a genuine thing, I tell you, trust me, I'm very impressed, are analyzed in those years, Madam Speaker, you will see where we went wrong. If we observe a common percentage share over the years in the respective categories, the categories and their percentage share of total import value are broken down. In one, cereal and cereal preparations, 30% of imports. Fish and fish products, 11% of imports. Vegetable and fruits, 11% of imports. Meat and meat preparations, 10% of imports. Sugar. And I'll turn to this later in the presentation, because there's a point that we keep missing and I'm going to raise it later on. But sugar and sugar preparations is 9% of the total value of imports. These categories, Madam Speaker, account for 70% of the value of food imports. Madam Speaker, I'll use an example to highlight the methodology and, more importantly, to demonstrate why we're having problems reversing our colossal import bill. A simple example. We selected from within the category of vegetables and fruits the subcategory dried leguminous vegetables. And after that, pulled the highest import value item. And guess which item was that, Madam Speaker? Red peas. Red peas. Something that we cook every single week in every single cook shop, every Sunday. If you don't have rice and peas on a Sunday, it's not a Sunday. We love stew peas. So red peas is the highest value import item from that category. That includes the red kidney beans and the round red. The value of this imported item is US $8 million on any given year, roughly 1.2 billion Jamaican dollars every year. So most Jamaicans who cook the red peas believe them cooking the local red peas. But the reality is that there's a high degree of probability that those who cook red peas in Jamaica, even today in the cook shops, and those who eat it in the food box, are eating red peas that have been imported into Jamaica. After completing our desk research, Madam Speaker, we went into the field, and our inquiries led us to the input providers. This group, Madam Speaker, tirelessly supports our farmers with the necessary crop growth and care inputs. But unfortunately, in the first instance, they advised us that a prohibitive duty exists on red kidney bean seeds for planting. So they can't even get access to the seeds for planting because there's a prohibitive duty on it. And that is something that us as legislators right here can easily fix. They further suggested, Madam Speaker, that the concern was shared with the Ministry of Agriculture on numerous occasions and through a former minister while he did his sensitization sessions with varying farm groups. Yet, Madam Speaker, even though this impediment existed and was known, nothing seems to have been done to change the situation. Again, this massive barrier to acquire the planting materials, so they don't even have a starting chance because they can't even acquire the materials because there's a prohibitive duty on it, still exists, posing a deterrent to production, and it continues to thwart our ability to lower the food import bill. So a simple legislative change, a simple decision by us, the legislators, or by the Minister of Finance can cure that defect. And by regulation, and quite easily, we could slash 1.2 billion from our food import bill. Madam Speaker, look at fish and fisheries product at 11% of the total import value. The fish and fish, Madam Speaker, this category has not received adequate attention either. As 60% of the aquaculture ponds to grow local tilapia remain inactive because of one, and I can point out issues, and the issues are public knowledge. Try it. Uncorrected problems with fish feed. Fingerlings for the restocking of ponds are perennially inadequate. Insufficient attention is given to technology to increase stocking density, affecting the cost of production, and larceny. I spoke about it last year, and I still stand by my suggestion. Larceny has visited every single aquaculture farmer in this country with disastrous and unwelcome results. And I'll turn to larceny later in the presentation and indicate, Madam Speaker, what proposals we believe as legislators are the quick fixes to ensure that we can do something almost immediately to deal with the issue of larceny. Also, Madam Speaker, another deterrent is the failure to align the farm gate with the market channels to facilitate growth. And you see, when you look at, for example, the AMC and what the AMC was implemented back in the 70s by Manley to do, is something that we need to revisit. Because these agricultural marketing corporations did well for farmers, and they allowed the farmers to have access, right, to the market channels. And we need to ensure that when we farm, there's access provided to the farmers to the market channels. Because we have heard a lot about productivity, and how productivity increased over the year. And I'll address that later on as well. Madam Speaker, marine fishers suffered a similar fate. And most of us would have heard the recurring tales on the nightly news. And most of us would have been aware of the issues facing our marine fishers, because this is an island. And a lot of the constituencies have fishing villages within them. The high cost of fuel is a one. 2, taxes on inputs for the proper maintenance of fishing vessels. That's what we need to deal with. Fiberglass is too hard to get. The tax on fiberglass is prohibitive. We need to sort it out. Taxes on inputs that facilitate the harvesting of marine fish. Inadequate oversight to control illegal fishing. Central Americans come here every single day and rob us of our fish and our fish stock. And we are not doing anything about it, and we need to do something about it. Last year, Madam Speaker, we made several suggestions to promote the blue economy. That is what it is called, the blue economy. But none have been adopted or implemented to date. And I'm hoping that is not because of arrogance. Madam Speaker, I'll now turn to the poultry sector. And I'll specifically treat with the issue of chicken back imports. Madam Speaker, when the Integrity Commission report on the importation regime for chicken back and neck was tabled in this House of Representatives in December of 2020, it cited fraud due to a lack of transparency and accountability and a compromised award process that effectively hindered competition. The report also referenced the illegal packing. And this is important, and I'm happy the Minister of Finance is here now, because it's something he has to hear, because I got a call earlier today, and I'm going to refer to it in this presentation. Referenced the illegal packing of dutiable premium parts into containers declared as chicken back or necks, which are not dutiable. These findings were listed as some of the troubling factors which needed immediate correction. Madam Speaker, the report also contained recommendations for the immediate cessation of the issuing of chicken back and neck permits under the prevailing arrangements. Importantly, the report strongly called for a new import regime to be put in place and to ensure transparency and accountability, especially in the receipt and processing of applications. After these revelations and recommendations, Madam Speaker, several government ministers spoke on the issue, and there was hardly any dissonance with the findings, and there were promises of changes. While delivering the keynote address at the Southern Plains Agricultural Development Project in the same week of the damning report, the Honourable Prime Minister was reported as having suggested that the import policy may be overhauled as a cure to the perceived systematic corruption that has dogged the chicken meat trade. In offering a solution, the Prime Minister said that his recommendation would be incentive compatible, and I quote, "We should make sure that we have our local people tied into the local value chain here, so that there's a vested interest in keeping our output high." In other words, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Prime Minister quite rightly supported a reward system that would grant producers, but wait, you soon hear what happened, that granted producers the benefit of import permits once local production dips below the required consumption levels. That was correct. Madam Speaker, not to be outdone, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries asserted that the new system would be accountable and transparent. Further to that statement, Madam Speaker, he advised that the said system, while offering the type of protection needed for the local poultry industry, would ensure that our people will always have access to affordable protein. A third cabinet minister, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance and Public Service, in closing the 2021-2022 budget debate, advised that the policy for the allocation of chicken back importation had been revamped and that the new measures would be implemented on the 1st of April 2021. That was reported here in this Parliament. The Honourable Minister also indicated the Cabinet's intent when he declared that the expectation is that we will see improvement in chicken back pricing. Chicken back is roughly $300 a pound now, so I mean, there has been no improvement, and I'll tell you why. Madam Speaker, a system was devised and finally implemented with the implied intent to reward importers by the level of their local productive outlays. The extent of the permits granted was determined via tiered system, with the greater investment outlays afforded to top-tiered positions. Unfortunately, the system was silent on the inclusion of companies with no investment, notwithstanding their bottom-tiered positions. We were promised transparency and accountability, yet companies with no investment in a productive endeavor or investment outlay in the meat distributive trade are benefiting by receiving import permits for chicken back. That is wrong. Madam Speaker, this is a very dangerous practice. Let me explain why the practice of granting import permits for chicken back to people with very little to zero institutional involvement in the meat trade is very, very dangerous. With minimal credibility to lose as institutional traders, these individuals take risk by bringing in dutiable poultry cuts and other prime meats into the country using the advantage of the duty-free status afforded to chicken back. Additionally, Madam Speaker, these same individuals also convert the import permits into cash. And this is a reality. By selling to the legitimate traders, thereby adding another margin on the poor. It's almost as if you're charging a duty, because once you have to pay a man for his permit, it's almost as if you're bringing in the thing and paying the duty for it. So the cost will be passed on to the poorest in this country. Madam Speaker, the Integrity Commission called for accountability and transparency. The government promised the country a clean system. Yet here we are with a list released last month in April, just last month, shrouded in uncertainty about the authenticity of some of those that are still benefiting. Madam Speaker, the Integrity Commission report was tabled in this House. A promise of a more transparent and accountable system was made. Yet the details germane to the changes are shrouded in secrecy. That, Madam Speaker, is not a good look from any angle from which any of us sit and view the situation. Madam Speaker and Minister of Finance, just this morning, I got a call from a trader that indicated that he was being approached with illegal leg quarter imports. And I'm sorry that the minister is not here, because I'd ask the minister if he's aware of it. Minister?
Oh, you're taking notes.
Yeah. Welcome, Minister. Minister, are you aware of this? And if you are not aware of it, Minister, I urge you to launch an investigation as soon as possible to treat with this issue. Madam Speaker, 2 of our flagship programs run by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and I'm doing an analysis of where I went wrong, and I'm providing solutions, are floundering, and the response is unabated import of substitute. I'm talking about the Irish potato program, and I'm referring to the onion program, the 2 flagship programs failing. In 2021, Madam Speaker, the country reported 6,096,930 kilograms of Irish potatoes. The figure represented a 73.32% self-sufficiency. In 2014, and this is a very important figure, we achieved a 90% self-sufficiency standing for Irish potatoes. Our poor performance in 2021 is not a one-off failure. In 2020, it was worse, dropping to a meager 70%. It's not comforting to know that we achieved a 90% self-sufficiency in 2014 and declined so badly that we had to import the equivalent of 206 40-foot containers of Irish potatoes in 2021. If you line up the 206 containers back to back, it stretches over 1.5 miles. That is what we have imported into the country last year alone. This is in the background of places like Guyshill that were once a prime area for production of Irish potatoes, contributing little to nothing to the trade. And these are the things we have to look into to find out where we went wrong in Geisel. To see if we can assist those farmers up there to get back into this. Because the value of this is roughly $1.2 billion, and if that is injected into that economy up there, you can imagine what that can do for that small community.
Don't worry about it.
Madam Speaker, why? I respect your position, Prime Minister, but I have the floor now. Why do we, Madam Speaker, encourage imports of this magnitude in a country where we have proven the capacity to grow Irish potatoes? And the consumers, Madam Speaker, have demonstrated a preference for local Irish potatoes. So there's no need to import any Irish potatoes in this country. And that is the position of the opposition. We have identified some of the problems associated with the reversal. I am the shadow minister. Listen to me, not listen to nobody else. We have identified some of the problems associated with the reversal. And the government should take careful note, as we on this side are just as anxious as they are for this program to succeed.
You address your presentation to me, and let's not have
I'm addressing you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Hey, Chuck, go back and drink a little.
I'm waiting on you, Madam Speaker, to give me. Madam Speaker, it is clear that the technical management related to crop care needs more focus. Let us now turn, Madam Speaker, to onion. The other flagship program is onion production. In 2016, under two growth czars, a target of 40% self-sufficiency was set for 2020. But by the end of 2020, Madam Speaker, the self-sufficiency percentage was 15.28%. In addition, Madam Speaker, the growth czars established a foreign exchange savings target of US $1.8 million to be reached by 2020. Madam Speaker, expenditure in 2016 was $2,329,614, while in 2020 expenditure reached $3,235,392, representing an increase of 39%. So that was a field target that was set by the growth czars. As I have stated before, the opposition wants these flagship programs to succeed. But when you see that 9,763,333 kilograms of onions were imported in 2021, representing a line of 330 containers, Madam Speaker, that would stretch for over 2.5 miles. This makes us disheartened. Madam Speaker, we are saddened because we cannot continue as a country on this trajectory. By any stretch of the imagination, this is abysmal management coming from the government that claims to be good managers, and this must be a great cause for concern. Madam Speaker, I'll now look at the issue of our food security. Jamaica is grouped among a list of countries according to the status of Small Island Developing States, or SDS. These states are usually highly vulnerable to external shocks, and unfortunately, when natural disasters visit us, that quartile of the population designated as the poorest suffer the most. Madam Speaker, that Jamaican reality, the country was gripped with a significant apprehension, if not fear, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck in early 2020. We heard repeated exhortations to strengthen our resolve during the challenging period.
Madam Speaker, the member's time having expired. In the context of today and what we're doing, I'm proposing, Madam Speaker, that his time be extended by 10 minutes to allow him to complete his presentation.
Madam Speaker, please remember. Madam Speaker, shut your face. Madam Speaker, we have, and you have administered this entire proceeding, sectoral debate. We have, with respect to Minister speaking of opposition spokesperson, given some latitude, and especially And especially, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I'm simply saying I think some consistency and some equity must be followed in this proceeding. Madam Speaker, you have the ultimate say in this. It is not fair. The minister is speaking, and it cannot be on the basis of whether you like what he's saying or not. It can't be on that basis. It cannot be.
Speaker, Madam Speaker, team, I don't understand the protestation. Because last week, I was very clear, I gave the Minister of Agriculture the 15 minutes extended time required. But in the context of how we behave, Madam Speaker, we recognize that the member is given a chance to conclude his presentation as quickly as possible. But this cannot be extended indefinitely because the rules are clear. And indeed, we may have been a little lax in the past, but the rules are clear. So Madam Speaker, the protestation is in vain because in the normal run of things, the extension time for the opposition member should be 5 minutes. I have given 10. And in giving 10, I still reserve to see what happens, as we will always allow the member to conclude his presentation. However, has to recognize that he's working within a time frame. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Members. I cannot speak if you speak. This speaker has always maintained consistency and equity as best I can in this parliament. And I do recognize, I'm not going to speak if you're speaking, I do recognize that the standing orders allows us 5 minutes. We have given more. But in the interest, since we're talking now and 5 minutes could be moving by, I'm going to ask the opposition spokesperson to use 15 minutes to complete. And the House Leader has said, we have never in this House stopped anyone from completing. The House Leader. 10. You know, members, the Speaker does have the final say. I'm going to ask you to wrap up as quickly as you can, and be assured that in this Parliament, 10 minutes has been asked. I'm giving you the 10 minutes, and we have never had a Speaker who has not been allowed to complete. So, go ahead. So that he can use wisely the 10 minutes. Right. Is that the member be given 10 minutes to complete his presentation, on the understanding that there will always be from this Speaker equity and consistency in whatever I do. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Member, it's now 2:44, so go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And earlier I heard my colleague on the other side.
Don't waste time on it. You need to concentrate.
Madam Speaker.
You know, member, I have asked you before to direct what you say to the Parliament. Now, if you waste time on the 10 minutes, then I can't help you. So continue the presentation because you're doing well.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I speak on two portfolios, water and agriculture. And many persons get the 30 minutes to speak on just one. We have limited numbers on this side, Madam Speaker, and as such, Madam Speaker, we end up with more portfolio responsibilities than we ought to have. And I'm going to finish expeditiously, Madam Speaker, but I'm just saying.
You know, member, if you cannot continue your presentation, what's the point? Allow yourself to go ahead. I have already said certain things. You're wasting time.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Madam Speaker. The World Food Programme, the Food Assistance Branch of the United Nations, conducted in January and February of 2022 a study titled Caribbean COVID-19 Security and Livelihoods Impact Survey. The survey findings represented responses from 6,000 households across 22 countries. The survey designed open-ended questions to facilitate responses like this from a Jamaican. And I quote, Madam Speaker, "I shop for food far less. I can't buy fruits for my kids, and that hurts. My kids are hungry most of the time." End quote. Madam Speaker, in a country where we're planting concrete at Bernard Lodge, a location classified as possessing the most fertile A1 soil, a mother in pain laments that her kids are hungry most of the time because she cannot provide for them. Madam Speaker, Build Back Better, they preen, while a mother cries, "I can't buy fruits for my kids," and that hurts. That is the Jamaican reality, Madam Speaker. The study reported that the overall picture remains deeply troubling as the rising food prices and productive input costs contribute to the growing level of food insecurity. The study concluded, Madam Speaker, that 4 in 10 Jamaicans have reduced their local consumption patterns, and some 98% reported an increase in food prices. Those respondents who spoke of experiencing higher food prices were not wrong. Their experiences at the retail level in 2021 curtailed their access to a nutritious food, leaving them food poor and malnourished. Madam Speaker, other surveys across the retail sector in Kingston have revealed, for example, that you have certain items that jump by 294%, only jumped by 114% between 2018 and 2021. That is the difference in value. Irish potato jumped from 396 kilograms in 2018 to 1,251 kilograms, increasing by 16%. That is between 2018 and 2021. That is the reality that we face as a country. Those are the examples of Build Back Better, Madam Speaker. We must use this opportunity presented by the crisis as a defining moment to tackle the issues, create appropriate plans, and as usual, Madam Speaker, I'm going to provide some solutions because I always try to provide solutions to this House. I don't just come here to criticize. So one, we need to start mapping our consumption patterns across the country, including our hotels. Two, we need to identify existing export trade and potential needs. We need to identify agro-processing needs. We need to identify wholesale and retail market needs for primary crops, livestock, and fisheries products. An assessment of the food distribution system to determine carrying capacity and the ambient and cold storage room inventory needs. We need to establish market information and transit systems to facilitate data capturing and enable product supply. And seven, Madam Speaker, we need to establish substantial irrigation systems that are powered by renewable energy sources. We need to develop and implement plans to expand existing and open CARICOM and extra-regional markets. We need to create a policy to support contract arrangements between primary producers and hoteliers, exporters, and the Minister of Tourism has spoken about that at length. We need to support productive levels by establishing import requirements that will adequately manage the production cycle of identified crops. Madam Speaker, when you look at, for example, JACRA was implemented to assist the commodities sector. And when you look at, for example, what JACRA has done to coffee imports, you will note that coffee imports, Madam Speaker, exports, has fell precipitously since JACRA was implemented. Coffee products amounted to US 23 million in 2017. That was what was exported. In the JACRA implementation year of 2018, the said year the coffee processors protested the unfair and authoritarian way they were forced to accept a quota directive. The export sales fell, Madam Speaker, to 18 million US dollars. And it continued to fall and lose value. So, for example, the differential loss in value to Jamaican food exports for just that one category of processed coffee products as a result of the JACRA overreach from 2017 to 2019 was US $8 million, Madam Speaker, amounting to 36%. Staggering, Madam Speaker, and amazing, because this is coming from a government that claims to be good managers. Madam Speaker, it is a painful experience to discover, having analyzed the imports of cocoa paste, wholly or partially defatted, that we have had to import from China and Ghana. US 11 million in 2018, 12 million in 2019, 11 million in 2020. This is what we call Build Back Better, Madam Speaker. Jampro in 2019, Madam Speaker, lamented that a multi-billion-dollar company in Jamaica had to buy coconut water from Malaysia and Indonesia to sell to Canada. We had the market, Madam Speaker. We knew the agronomics in coconut production. We had the germplasm to produce excellent cultivars. We looked to our leaders for direction to grasp this opportunity, and the industry, Madam Speaker, is still waiting. When you look at, for example, what we have imported, coconut water, coconut milk powder, coconut cream, coconut desiccated, coconut milk for culinary purposes, they have been imported to Jamaica, average 8 to 9 million US dollars every year. In a tropical country where coconut can grow and intercrop with other crops. We are still importing coconut products into this country. Over $1.5 billion every year. Madam Speaker, look at refined sugar, for example. Last year, I bemoaned the fact that imports of refined sugar was 3.9 billion in 2019 and 3.4 and 4.3 in 2020. But listen to this. In 2021, last year, you know how much we import for refined sugar in this country? $5.8 billion. And most of the sugar, 60 to 65% of the sugar, guess where them come from, Madam Speaker? Guatemala. A Central American country. Guatemala accounts for 60 to 65% of the sugar that we import. If Guatemala, Madam Speaker, why not Jamaica? We must think big, Madam Speaker. If they can, why not us? And we have Rody Park Sugar Estate, and they have proven to be a very profitable organization. They have proven that they have the capacity to produce sugar. We need to invite Rody Park. We need to invite the manufacturers to integrate backwards into the sugar production because, Madam Speaker, I am from a sugar producing area that is now littered with crime. We had 2 banks in Lionel Town, no bank in Lionel Town now. So these communities have been left idle, Madam Speaker. And the reality is that if we look only at the cost of production of the cane and at the impact on the families in these communities, most of us who went to school and school fees were paid by the sugar workers, then we're on the wrong track. And reintroducing sugar may very well be a crime reduction strategy. It could be a crime reduction strategy, creating thousands of jobs, instilling pride in the people. The lands are there idle, we're not doing anything with them, Madam Speaker. So we have to be careful about how we look at these things. Madam Speaker, I pray there lastly. We call on the government, Madam Speaker, to amend the current fines under the Agricultural Produce Act from the current $250,000, Madam Speaker, to $5 million. Over the past 5 years, stakeholders have asked for this to be done, to bring the act under the Proceeds of Crime Act, because, Madam Speaker, the reality is that we pray there lastly. There's a thriving meat for gun trade in this country. And if, Madam Speaker, I can't.
I would suggest you continue speaking. I can hear you very clearly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I'll now turn to the portfolio responsibility of water.
Yes, and I notice your attitude, but we have to be as concise as consistent as I've been with the Minister of Agriculture last week. I stopped him. I said, you have to wrap up. And I've given you the time. I'm asking you to do just that.
Madam Speaker, we on this side are extremely disappointed with the handling of the water portfolio. And we believe that the absence of a dedicated minister to the portfolio has hurt the nation and given cause to much of the shenanigans plaguing the sector. The portfolio seems to be bouncing around with no clear policy objectives or decisions. The National Water Commission appears to be on a frolic of its own, sitting comfortably with government subventions and interventions with no accountability. Madam Speaker, when you look at, for example, opportunities that exist for the Water Commission, like bottled water, the bottled water is projected to be domestically at local level 165 million United States dollars in 2025. Yet still we are not able to tap into that market. We have the Seaview filtering plant, Madam Speaker, that is in Stony Hill. And we have chosen not to take advantage of that filtering plant. Even though when NWC has their retreats, they bottle and label the water. And if we have exposed them, bottle and label the water, they know of the potential marketability of the water. But they have done nothing to advance on that. When you look, for example, at Madam Speaker, and I'm concluding very soon, on the energy costs, for NWC alone, is $600 to $700 million every month they have to pay. When you look at the public bodies book that is presented here, to the Jamaica Public Service, when they can easily use hydroelectric dams to generate their own electricity and sell the excess to the JPS. We can also ensure, Madam Speaker, that we install solar panels at each pumping station across the country and at least try to slash that $600 to $700 million Jamaican dollars per month from it. Madam Speaker, in concluding, I have raised some important issues which must be addressed urgently if Jamaica is to manage critical issues of food security. We are not doing it at this point. We cannot continue to make annual pronouncements that come to very little, sometimes nothing. Madam Speaker, I beg the Minister and this administration to let us not have a repetition of 2021 import performance in our agricultural sector ever again. Local agriculture must be incentivized and modernized. On that, we cannot compromise. We cannot have ministers going out and praising struggling and innovative young farmers, only return to the office and hand out import permits like confetti. We can do better. We must do better, Madam Speaker. PR slogans of building back better, but with production support and financial resources can help our farmers to feed the nation, grow, and reverse growing poverty trends in rural Jamaica, from which most of us come from. Let us just forget the whole illusion of build back better and put it back the way we found it. That is my plea, Madam Speaker. Thank you, and God bless Jamaica. No worry, man. No worry, man.
Madam Speaker, we wish to acknowledge the presentation of the member. I think that he did. and Madam Speaker, just to make the point that, we are never ever contentious about these matters, and we do appreciate the fact that he was able to put together, and I think that he closed well, except that he is still retrogressive in his approach, because we don't go back. We always go forward, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is my request that you now invite the Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, the Honourable Floyd Green, to make his presentation. I would like to
I would like to thank the opposition spokesperson for his presentation this afternoon, and I now want to invite the Minister without portfolio in the Prime Minister's office, the Honourable Floyd Green, to make his presentation. Minister Green.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Surrounded by flowers.
You are the light of the world.
Yes, yes.
A city that is set upon a hill cannot be hid. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Madam Speaker, I am most honored and humbled today to make my presentation as Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for digital transformation. Let me first thank God for his continuous blessings and sustenance. Thanks to my mother, June Green, and my father, Ronald Green, for an upbringing that has molded me into the man I am today.
Hear, hear.
The Most Honorable Andrew Holness,
Yes.
Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
You have charged me with a responsibility, PM, that I know you hold dear to your heart, and that is critical for the transformation of our nation. I appreciate your confidence in me, and I shall do all in my power to ensure that your vision is realized. Madam Speaker, I applaud your ability to manage the affairs of this House. Especially, Madam Speaker, with varied personalities and a multiplicity of challenging issues. You have displayed fairness and astuteness in all affairs. Personally, Madam Speaker, I thank you for your words of encouragement and your guidance. To my colleagues in Cabinet and in Parliament, congratulations on your many achievements professionally and personally, and for the work that you continue to do for the Jamaican people. Let me express my appreciation to the staff at the Office of the Prime Minister and its agencies, led by Permanent Secretary Mrs. Audrey Sewell, CTD Sharika Hemmings Allison, the National Identification Project Team, the RGD, and all other ministries, departments, and agencies of the OPM. Special thanks to those who provide direct support to my office. Communications Specialist Kenisha Campbell, Executive Assistant Ashery Bennett, Secretary Renee Edwards, Close Protection Officer Roxroy Montague, and of course, Rasta, my driver. Madam Speaker, to the people who make me whole, my fiancée, Kerida Bryce, and my son, Nathaniel Marcos. I love you both immensely. Madam Speaker, finally in my thank yous, I must say thank you to my constituents. Yes. In my darkest hours, they stood by my side. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. They have been instrumental in my journey over these 6 years, and I especially thank Councillor Jeremy Palmer, Mayor Derek Sangster, Councillor Whitney Smith-Curry, and caretaker Dini Bamidele, and my entire management team, including my office manager, Mr. Kenroy James. As Member of Parliament, you can rest assured that I remain committed to ensuring the continued development of the best place on earth. I say a general thank you for all those who on this journey have issued a word of encouragement and have offered a prayer. It has not gone unnoticed. Madam Speaker, in my presentation today, I will highlight the key drivers of Jamaica's digital transformation journey, focusing on the digitization of civil events at the Registrar's General Department, the establishment of our National Identification Registration Authority, the National Identification System, our social partnership, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, the Chase Fund, and the Constituency Development Fund, all encompassing a plan to take a people-centered approach to transformation and building Jamaica. We must all, Madam Speaker, think digital.
Yes.
We can all agree on one thing. Digital transformation is inevitable. From self-driving cars to digital currency to NFTs, the world has expanded past our wildest imaginations. Now is the time for Jamaica to use technology to make the lives of our citizens easier, to leverage our brand, and to sow seeds of prosperity, opportunity, and peace. Join me here in the metaverse and live in Parliament as I lead you on this journey to think digital.
Madam Speaker, in any society, one of the most important entities is that entity that records major life events, births, deaths, marriages. For here in Jamaica, that is the Registrar's General Department, an entity that has been capturing life events for over 142 years. It is a fact that no matter your station in life, we have all interacted with the RGD. I had the opportunity, Madam Speaker, to visit the RGD offices and to interact with staff across various departments. And I want to wish on behalf of the Parliament, thank you to all the RGD teams across the country for their hard work. Madam Speaker, the RGD registers 35,000 births, 12,000 marriages, and 23,000 deaths per year. So, Madam Speaker, in order to recraft and create a truly digital society, it has to start with the transformation of our civil registry. Yeah. We must ensure that we increase accessibility, convenience, and efficiency. Unfortunately, members, the majority of the RGD records are solely paper-based. The reality is that no matter what software or online services we offer, unless we remedy this challenge, we can never truly lead transformation. Thankfully, members, our Prime Minister and Your Holiness has taken a comprehensive view of digital transformation. It is for that reason on Friday, May 6th, we announced a $612 million Jamaican dollars, or US $4 million contract to digitize over 2 million records at the RGD. What this means, Madam Speaker, is that Fujitsu Caribbean has been contracted and has already started the work to install the necessary infrastructure to facilitate the digitization of records created from 1930 to the present. Wow. Digitizing these paper records will yield significant benefits for Jamaicans. People will be able to obtain services at a much quicker rate, minimizing the need to search physical records and enhancing the efficiency of searches. Madam Speaker and members, there is, however, another substantial benefit that will come from our digitization program. We appreciate that for digital transformation to take root, for people to think digital, then we have to have people-centered transformation. For this reason, Madam Speaker, the digitization process of the RGD will incorporate the services of 40 Heart Trust Hope graduates. These graduates will be trained and certified, and these 40 young people will form the backbone of our digitization journey. Madam Speaker, prior to 2020, customers could only apply online for birth, death, and marriage certificates and do genealogy research. Over the last year, the agency has updated their online services to ensure that people can now correct an error online, can update their records online and also for late entry of name. But members, we are taking it a step further. Today, I am happy to announce that our people will be able to obtain an electronic burial order online. Our people, Madam Speaker, will be able to apply for their adoption certificates online. And, Madam Speaker, importantly, you will now be able to book your wedding at the RGD online. Madam Speaker, this is not just good for our residents. I am fully booked. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is not just good for our residents, but also for our diaspora, who can access these services and are also able to upload documents and make payments and as such conduct whole transactions from the comforts of their homes anywhere in the world. And, Madam Speaker, we're not stopping. We're now moving to procure a new registration software, which for the first time in our history will link birth record to marriage record to deed poll to death records. So we'll have a holistic civil registry system. Madam Speaker, in order to achieve these things, we continue to upskill the talent at the RGD. This includes upskilling the RGD teams to oversee and manage new civil registration technologies and digitizing civil events records. So far, 48 employees of the RGD have benefited from the training, and we will spend an additional $6 million from our National Identification System budget over the next 2 years to continue upskilling the teams at the RGD. Madam Speaker, as we continue to drive for people-centered transformation, this government continues to explore ways to make the life of people easier. We have seen that with the introduction of the first birth certificate free and our bedside registration program, we have seen an increase in the amount of children that are named immediately. Yes. We are capturing over 99%, Madam Speaker, of the births. But we want to go a step further. So we will be giving the bedside registration program a facelift through the National Identification Project. And we will be introducing a new bedside registration app. We have already, Madam Speaker, procured 60 purpose-built tablets which will be distributed to our registration officers. Upon the launch of the app, our registration officers will be able to populate the birth certificate in real time. What it means, Madam Speaker, is that once the information is inputted by the mother's bedside, it is automatically uploaded on the RGD systems. So where we're heading to is that by next year, Madam Speaker, mothers will be able to leave hospitals or birth centers with verifiable digital electronic copies of their children's birth certificates. That is how we think digital. Transformational. Madam Speaker, when I say we're taking a comprehensive approach, a people-centered approach to ensure that our citizens think digital, allow me to announce a new program that will encapsulate what I mean. All of us in this house have come across persons in our constituencies that have no birth certificates. Yes, all the time. Yeah. Unfortunately, the issue normally presents itself at the worst possible time for the individual. It is normally when they're trying to do some business or access a government service. Normally, they turn to the MP or the councillor with an appeal for help because the reality is that they normally are unable to afford accessing the birth certificate. Madam Speaker, in this our 60th year of independence, we are embarking on Project Birthright. Through the program, we will implement and promote outreach activities at the RGD's branch offices and across various communities for registering needy, undocumented Jamaican nationals. Eligible participants will receive their birth certificate free of cost. What we're doing in Project Birthright, Madam Speaker, will offer free birth certificates for undocumented Jamaicans who have a certain household income. We have allocated $50 million for this project and expect it to benefit 11,000 undocumented Jamaicans over the course of this year. Madam Speaker, the program is being spearheaded by the National Identification Project Team and the RGD, and will adopt existing means of verifying if the applicants were born in Jamaica. Come July, the Project Birthright registration form will be available at the RGD branch offices, the RGD website, the NITS Facts website, and on our social media pages. Forms will also be made available on the day of planned outreach events. Madam Speaker, there's a little more. In recognition of Jamaica's 60th, we are kick-starting this program by asking our members of parliament to aid us by supplying the names of 60 persons across your constituency that are in need of birth certificates and that fit the established criteria. In this our 60th year, Madam Speaker, we're going to take steps to ensure that each Jamaican can claim their birthright, starting with their birth certificate. This is how you lay the foundation for a digital society. Yes. Madam Speaker, I want to speak a little bit about our National Identification Program. You see, Madam Speaker, one of the advantages of digital transformation is that regardless of where you join the line, you can move to the front of the line by looking and learning from the experiences around you and by implementing best practices. Madam Speaker, we have looked at the Estonian model, we have looked at the Indian model and other models, and we have designed what will be a fit-for-purpose, best practice approach to collect and manage identity information in the Jamaican context. Madam Speaker, we are learning from other countries, their successes and their pitfalls, and building a system for Jamaicans by Jamaicans. So with that in mind, Madam Speaker, our governing legislation, the National Identification Registration Act, our governing legislation establishes the National Identification Registration Authority. We call it the NIRA, Madam Speaker. The NIRA will administer the National Identification System, and it will develop the protocols for the operation of the National Identification System. It will manage two databases, the National Identification Database, which will store all our identity information, and the Civil Registration Database, which stores all the information kept by the Registrar General for purposes of civil registration. Madam Speaker, we contracted PwC, and we have engaged them in an extensive process to determine what is the best structure and organizational design for our new agency. Again, looking at best practices from all over the globe. I am pleased to announce, Madam Speaker, that the National Identification and Registration Authority design was completed and submitted to Cabinet on the 16th of May. And we expect that that will be considered when Cabinet meets next on the 30th of May. Upon Cabinet's approval, as we prepare for the criterion of the NIRA, the Public Sector Transformation Unit will be pivotal, Madam Speaker, as that unit will lead the consultations with staff and various agencies that are impacted so that we can accomplish the ambitious target of establishing a brand new entity to treat with identity registration. Madam Speaker, I cannot stress enough, our national identification system will provide a safe, convenient, reliable means for persons to prove their identity. while aiding the furtherance of digitization of the government. It will reduce bureaucracy. It will encourage efficiency. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, it will make the life of our citizens easier. Madam Speaker, now is a good time to remind people that enrollment in our national identification system is voluntary. And it will be encouraged by a robust public education campaign so that our citizens will see the value in having a national identification card. But where are we, Madam Speaker? That is the question. Where are we to rolling out our national identification system? Just to update the House, Madam Speaker, our software to power our card rollout, which includes enrollment, vetting, pre-enrollment, card personalization, is about 90% complete. And we expect it will be completed over the next 2 months. Madam Speaker, we have more excellent news. Our National Identification Card Production Center is 97% complete. And we have recruited all the staff already, Madam Speaker, and all of them have been subjected to extensive background checks. We expect, Madam Speaker, to have our first NIDS enrollment site in Kingston, that first site will be ready by August 2022. And that we will have an additional 5 enrollment sites in Kingston before the end of the year. Continuing on that trajectory, Madam Speaker, we will expand beyond our pilot, which will start in Kingston and St. Andrew, and we will put in an additional 8 sites in early 2023 in Greater Portmore, Mandeville, Old Harbour, Black River, Morant Bay, Ocho Rios, Port Maria, and of course, Montego Bay. By the mid-2023, Madam Speaker, we expect that all other parish capitals will have enrollment sites. What we decided to do, Madam Speaker, because we believe in efficiency, is to partner with the Jamaica Post and to utilize the space of our post office. So not only are we rolling out the national identification system, Madam Speaker, 24 post offices across the country will be significantly modernized because we're going to host our national identification system in their offices. I want to really thank Mr. Lincoln Allen, who is the Postmaster General, because he has been a really good partner on this process. So, Madam Speaker, what we're going to do is to start with a national pilot. And the pilot will be housed in Kingston and St. Andrew just to ensure that any nuances that are there are ironed out before the national rollout. Madam Speaker, the enrollment process is clear, hassle-free, and it will mark the stage of our digitally advanced lives. I ask members to turn their attention to the screen.
The enrollment process is easy as 1, 2, 3. In order to enroll into the NIDS, an applicant must be a citizen of Jamaica or ordinarily resident for 6 months and above. Persons must submit documents such as birth certificate, proof of address, or marriage certificate. Step 1. Applicants will be able to pre-enroll online or visit the nearest enrollment center. Step 2. Applicants' biometric data and supporting documents are collected at an enrollment site. A reference number will be given for the applicant to track the application online. Step 3. Once the verification is done, a notification will be sent to the applicant to collect, pin, and activate their national identification card. The process is now completed, and your ID card can now be used to verify your identity.
So, Madam Speaker, we're really trying to ensure that the process is as hassle-free as possible, while ensuring that we do the necessary verification. Well, Madam Speaker, there is a reality. There are some questions that continue to come up when we speak about the national identification card. And I want to answer just a couple of them today. The first question, Madam Speaker, why a national identification card? Persons often ask, why do we need a national ID? And invariably, they ask, what is the difference between what we have now and what we're going to get? The truth is that the voter's ID, because of a lack of a national ID, for a number of people, that has become their national ID. But, Madam Speaker, while it has served us well, the reality it is limited in scope, because the voter's ID is not available to the entire population. You cannot get a voter's ID if you are below 18 years of age. So many of our Jamaicans are excluded from registration. If we were to look at the driver's license, that's even more exclusionary, because you have to be able to operate a motor vehicle to get the driver's license. And the passport, Madam Speaker, the passport is accessible. It does collect significant data, but there is a cost attached for you to procure your passport and to travel around with your passport. So, Madam Speaker, the reality is that all the aforementioned, or voter's ID, or passport, or driver's license, they were functional identifications, meaning they were created by legislation for specific purposes. They were not designed to confirm your identity. That is why, Madam Speaker, when you go to do so many processes in Jamaica, they say bring 2 identification, or they say bring 1 and go and get your JP letter for your JP to write that you are who you say you are. Madam Speaker, inefficient, it has held us back. But we are making a change. There is a difference with your national identification card. By law, Madam Speaker, Section 17 of the National Identification Registration Act says an enrolled individual who is issued a national identification card may use the card as a means of proving that individual's identity. And where, Madam Speaker, an individual furnishes the card to a person who requires proof of the individual's identity, listen to this, Madam Speaker, the card shall be accepted as sufficient proof of an individual's identity. Not only that, because I know my young people are asking, the person by law shall not require the individual to produce any other additional proof of identity. So, Madam Speaker, we are doing away with the requirement for the justice of the peace to say that you are who you say you are. Plus, Madam Speaker, the national identification card is the first ID for everyone. Everyone in our society. And the national identification card will be an electronic ID card. So it will give us the opportunity to move more services online and use the platform of the national identification system to access these services in a seamless way. What we are setting up, Madam Speaker, is a comprehensive system, from data collection to storage to producing the cards, a comprehensive and secure ecosystem. Additionally, Madam Speaker, the national identification card will be offered to people free of cost. The other big question, will my information be safe? Madam Speaker, the answer is yes. The government is taking every step to comply with international standards and best practices for data security and privacy. The government has engaged Estonians to work with the project executing unit to develop all the security policies and standards for the National Identification System. These standards will be adopted and implemented by the National Identification and Registration Authority during the pilot of the National Identification System. The security standards are hinged on ISO 27001. We have also, Madam Speaker, engaged a Jamaican cyber security firm to participate in the hardening of the National Identification System. The Jamaican security firm will work concurrently with our international security experts. The National Identification System database are encrypted by transparent data encryption in fulfilling the requirements outlined in the National Identification and Registration Act. Transparent data encryption encrypts the data within the database's physical files. And importantly, Madam Speaker, so what it means is that when you go and you give your information, and information is entered into the system, somebody can't just go and look and see it, because it is encrypted upon entry. But we're going a bit further. We're ensuring that the audit trails of the system will be protected using blockchain technology. What it means, Madam Speaker, is that if there's unauthorized access or unauthorized use, there will be a record that cannot be deleted by NERA's officers. So, Madam Speaker, this is a new era of transparency. This is new for Jamaica, and this is good for building public trust and ensuring that we think digital. A couple other points, because, Madam Speaker, people ask these questions. Madam Speaker, there's no discretion when you work at NERA. There's no discretion that the officers can use to provide information. Requests for information or for the authentication and verification services is clearly set out under the National Identification and Registration Act. Madam Speaker, this is important to note. The verification of identity is at the individual's request or an accredited third party with the individual's consent. So, Madam Speaker, the verification of the identity cannot happen unless the individuals request it or there is an accredited third party who has requested it with the individual consent. Other than those ways, Madam Speaker, it cannot be accessed otherwise unless by court order. It is worth noting that NERA must register and be monitored as a data controller under the Data Protection Act. And as such, NERA and its officers are accountable under the Data Protection Act and must comply with data privacy and data security. Madam Speaker, this is the first in our history that we have built in a double oversight mechanism. So under the Data Protection Act, the Information Commissioner, who was appointed in December 2021, will provide practical monitoring of our national identification system related to data protection and privacy. The next layer of data protection and the next layer of protection is an independent oversight body called the National Identification and Registration Inspectorate. They are mandated, Madam Speaker, to monitor the authority's compliance with the NIDS law and to report its findings directly to Parliament. The Inspectorate will be empowered to take action independently or to bring to the attention of the appropriate regulatory or disciplinary body where it is found that the authority or its employees have violated the enabling legislation. Madam Speaker, we are using the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, an entity with a proven track record of accountability, transparency, and effectiveness. So, Madam Speaker, when I say we have taken all reasonable steps, keeping in mind the realities of the world we live in, to set up a system that adheres to the best practices, we have done so. And you know why we've done so, Madam Speaker, quite frankly? The National Identification Registration will have the Prime Minister's information. It will have all of our information. It will have our children's information. So we have gone to the full extent to ensure that it is safe. Two more questions to answer, Madam Speaker. What will the card look like? Madam Speaker, understanding the gravity of the task before us, the Office of the Prime Minister established a committee consisting of professionals from the government of Jamaica, the private sector, and international EID experts who designed Jamaica's first national identification card. It has a unique layout where Jamaica's national symbols are embedded in the design of the card. The coat of arms, the Dr. Bird, the national flag, the Aki, all of those are reflected in the card. Madam Speaker, we have taken the same high priority approach to the security of the card itself. Other cards that we utilize, Madam Speaker, have about 12 security features. The National Identification Card, which we will unveil, will have 26 security features, spanning level 1, 2, and 3. The National Identification Card is a polycarbonate card with the identity data engraved, Madam Speaker, which means that no one can physically alter the card without it being noticeable. There will be a period of sensitization where persons can be up to date with the visible level 1 security features, similar for what is being done for our local currency. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that the National Identification Card design and proofprint was approved in February 2022. And the first batch of test cards were received by the government of Jamaica in May 16, 2022. The question still remains, what do the cards look like? Madam Speaker, I ask the Prime Minister to join me as we unveil the National Identification Card.
All right.
Madam Speaker, I will again reiterate that given the gravity of the task, a committee was established consisting of professionals from the government of Jamaica, the private sector, and international EID security experts to design this card. As again you've seen, Madam Speaker, it is a unique layout. It has the national symbols embedded, the coat of arms, the Dr. Bird, the national flag, the Aki, Madam Speaker. It is truly a national identification card. So, Madam Speaker, the last question is normally, will it make our life easier?
Of course.
Madam Speaker, the power that this card holds is the ease of use and the absence of traditional written proof and eyewitnesses to say you are who you say you are. As we amend our legislation to reflect our step into the digital world, it should be noted that where we are going is going to remove the need for multiple unique identifiers. Moving to a space where your one national ID can be used over time to be your NIS, to be your TRN, and where ultimately your national ID can be used as proof that you're licensed to drive a car. In fact, Madam Speaker, I want to commend Minister Shaw and Minister Malahoo Fort, who are already spearheading the changes to the Road Traffic Act regulations to ensure that in the shortest possible time, once you have your national ID, you can utilize that to prove that you're licensed to drive a motor vehicle. But, Madam Speaker, there are more benefits. You know, one of our most vulnerable are always a priority of this government. As persons with disabilities need the same access to services as those without disabilities. You know, there's a reality, Member Cousin. One of the realities is that oftentimes persons with disabilities are without identification. Madam Speaker, special provisions will be made for persons with disability on the National Identification System. We have met and we've deliberated with the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, and we have agreed on using the international access sign to represent persons with disabilities at the rear of the national identification card. Madam Speaker, we will capture the information of all our people with disabilities, but it will be optional if they opt to have the sign on the back of the card. They will have that choice. But once they so choose, it will appear. And we've done the calculations, Madam Speaker. What it means is that for the vast majority of our disabled community, we will not have to print a separate identification card. That will save the government $160 million. Madam Speaker, one can never diminish the role of the justice of the peace. They serve much more than verifying identity. People use them all the time in relation to character references, recommendations. But you know, Madam Speaker, unfortunately, our justices of the peace do not have an identification card to say that they are justices of the peace. In fact, what they have to do is drive around with the seal. And when they are stopped and they say they are JP, they have to back out the seal to show the person who is asking. Madam Speaker, we're going to fix that. Once you're a JP, on the rear of the card, there will be a designation that says JP. Madam Speaker, I have to thank Minister Delroy Chuck because he has made this critical representation. And this, Madam Speaker, will save the government $7.2 million of not having to print separate cards for justices of the peace. There is another big advantage. When we think digital, we are ensuring that we make the lives of Jamaicans easier and more hassle-free. We know that with the absence of a holistic database for verification, it is very difficult for persons who are doing business or opening accounts with commercial entities like banks. Through the National Identification System, we are helping the unbanked to handle their needs. Madam Speaker, in another 2 weeks, the government of Jamaica will be signing a memorandum of understanding with our financial institutions to participate in the National Identification System pilot. Already, Madam Speaker, all 10 members of the Jamaica Bankers Association have expressed an intent to sign the MOU. The inclusion of our banks will ensure that there is a simplified process when opening bank accounts using the National Identification System. We are moving to a stage, Madam Speaker, where we want the entire process almost to be done online using our National Identification System. Madam Speaker, we're going to explore more ways to use the national identification system to make life easier for our citizens as we lead this people-centered approach to digital transformation and to think digital. An implementation task force has been established to provide innovative and strategic direction for the adoption of the national identification card in the private and public sectors. Importantly, Madam Speaker, a consultant has been recruited to work with the critical MDAs to fast-track the development of high-value use cases to support the use of the national identification card, starting with the most frequent or cumbersome transactions from a user's perspective. But, Madam Speaker, the national identification system is only a part of our people-centered transformation being led by the Office of the Prime Minister. And you would allow me to go into a couple other areas before I conclude. Ten minutes.
Members, the question before the House is that the member be given an additional 10 minutes to finish his presentation with the right. Allow any speaker not to complete their presentation. To do just that.
Thank those.
Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have, for the purposes of the presentation, issued all members of Parliament their own sectoral identification card. And you all should have gotten your sectoral identification card. If you scan the QR code on the back, you will have access to our Think Digital Jamaica website, which has the presentation, it has the videos, it will also take you to the NIDS facts page, so please scan the QR code. They tried to take it, Madam Speaker, but we upgrade it on them. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has the enviable record of having strong social partnership. Social partnership led by the National Partnership Council, a social dialogue collaboration between the government of Jamaica, the trade union movement, the opposition, private sector, representatives from women, youth, academic groups to address national, economic and social issues. Now more than ever, Madam Speaker, we need partnership. This is why we have started a process to revamp the working of the National Partnership Council. After a period of consultation, the Council had its first meeting this year in March under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister. It was a wide-ranging meeting, Madam Speaker, attended by ministers of government covering issues from the Russia-Ukraine war to the end of the DRMA. We're slated to have another meeting shortly. And we have also, Madam Speaker, expanded the coordinating committee to be more inclusive, and they have had their first meeting in April. Madam Speaker, we're on the cusp of signing a new 4-year social partnership agreement. Already, the main themes have emerged, and this agreement will focus on people, planet, partnership, peace, and prosperity. And it will seek to achieve the strong and sustained recovery of the Jamaican economy. Madam Speaker, I ask the members of Parliament just to join me in appreciating the dedication and commitment of all the partners and thank them for all they do in helping to create a better Jamaica. Madam Speaker, one of the areas that will need an all-hands-on-deck partnership approach is the matter of road safety. The Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, is the chair of the National Road Safety Council and has been leading the charge locally and internationally for all of us to have a great appreciation for the choices we make on our roads so to protect lives. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister has asked me to work along with the Council and Minister Shaw to strengthen our efforts in this regard and to re-engage the private sector around this critical issue. Madam Speaker, I don't think I need to convince us here or the wider Jamaica of how important the issue is. It is an issue that has caused a lot of emotional distress in every nook and cranny of Jamaica, as people try to cope with the sudden and untimely loss of loved ones and the sudden loss of income by sometimes the sole breadwinner in the household. You know, I had reason, Madam Speaker, to speak to the member from Western Westmoreland last week, and we were both bemoaning the fact that so many young men that we know have died on our roads, especially. Madam Speaker, 487 persons died on the nation's roads last year. Members, it's unacceptable. And the reality is that the vast majority of the cases, the loss of life is highly preventable. You know, one of the areas that we've flagged members for urgent attention is the surge in motorcycle deaths. In 2012, motorcycle deaths accounted for 17% of road traffic deaths. In 2021, motorcycle deaths account for 34% of road traffic deaths. So that's 34% of 487 last year. Yeah.
And concentrate on your speech.
Yes. So in response, Madam Speaker, the National Road Safety Council have started training sessions in the areas that account for the largest amounts of motorcycle deaths. 300 motorcyclists have been trained in Westmoreland, and Westmoreland is the area that accounts for the largest amount of motorcycle deaths. They have now moved into St. Elizabeth, Madam Speaker, with a training in Mountainside, which unfortunately ranked second, Madam Speaker. In total, 420 bikers have been trained, and over the last 2 years, we have distributed 720 helmets to those motorcyclists.
They're not using it.
We're moving, Madam Speaker. I hear the Prime Minister giving me some directions. I deal with the PM. We're moving, Madam Speaker, to partner with the FIA Foundation, an international agency, to embark on a more comprehensive program to address the issue of motorcycle crashes. And we will have some announcements in short order, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister has also indicated that Jamaica will be taking the safe systems approach as a guiding principle in our efforts to reduce the carnage on our roads. Madam Speaker, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund is a people-centered organization, and it mobilizes resources and channels them into community-based socio-economic infrastructure and social services. JISTV, we all know, Madam Speaker, has been addressing the demands of our communities through national partnership between central government and local government, and communities and private and public organizations. In fact, in connecting the dots, Madam Speaker, JISTV has embarked on an integrated community development program which includes a Safe Passages project. The multi-parish project improves infrastructure and roadways around schools in multiple communities to reduce accidents with our children. Over 7,000 persons will benefit. The fund has also carried out work in rural schools. Among these projects include the rehabilitation of the Boston Primary and Infant School, the expansion and rehabilitation of the Marley Mount Infant School. The Albion Primary School has benefited from the construction of a special education block for the infrastructure of special needs students. Additionally, Madam Speaker, there has been significant investments in agriculture and tourism. Madam Speaker, I turn to the Chase Fund. And as Jamaica celebrates 60 years of independence, the Chase Fund will mark 20 years of committed service to Jamaica. The Chase Fund recognized that they needed to help lead the digital transformation, especially in our education system, Madam Speaker. And as such, as a part of the Chase Technology Enhancement Program, over 200 tablets were distributed, over 2,000 tablets were distributed to students in infant schools across Jamaica. Infant schools. This is to facilitate online and mixed modality learnings. Of course, we could not have stopped there, Madam Speaker. 77 early childhood institutions across the country received multifunction printers as well as supplies, and scholarships valued at $37 million were awarded to 164 students pursuing undergraduate or postgraduate studies in early childhood education. Madam Speaker, Chase also contributes to the government efforts to manage the COVID-19 crisis, providing over $190 million for resources and rehabilitation of hospitals, including but not limited to interventions at the National Influenza Center, the purchase of hospital beds for the Kingston Public Hospital, the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, the Bustamante Hospital, the Spanish Town Hospital, and the list goes on and on. Madam Speaker, Chase will continue to provide support to the health sector. Additionally, culture is essential to our welfare, and as such, Chase has invested over $40 million, Madam Speaker, to construct a community cultural center in the community of Sherlock in Duhaney Park in Northwest St. Andrew. Under its special education grants, Chase has awarded 29 arts and culture scholarships valued at $19 million. In this financial year, Madam Speaker, we will see the Chase Fund continuing to build out community cultural centers, and they have earmarked St. Catherine High School to build a performing arts center and downtown Kingston to build a center for visual and performing arts. Madam Speaker, the final area, the Constituency Development Fund, plays a major role in the improvement of all constituencies in Jamaica by supporting members of Parliament with funding of constituency projects. To further enhance this, the agency has improved several of its systems and processes. Of note, Madam Speaker, for the first time since 2015, a revision of the CDF operational procedure has been done to ensure that there is increased statutory and regulatory compliance by all the stakeholders, to ensure that there is no, yes, so to ensure that there is increased statutory and regulatory compliance, to ensure that there is relevance to on-the-ground realities, and to ensure that there is equitable distribution across project categories. We know, Madam Speaker, that education is the essential foundation for prosperity and opportunity. It is a lifelong currency. And, Madam Speaker, we know that investment in education is essential. As such, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to advise that now a minimum of 25% of the Constituency Development Fund is invested in education activities. This amounts to $315 million annually going to education from the CDF. We have also seen increased compliance by members of Parliament by approximately 70% in carrying out their biannual constituency consultations. And finally, Madam Speaker, the CDF is also thinking digital and has appreciated that digitization is a crucial step in optimizing and modernizing its operations. And so the digitization of the CDF has started. There has been the acquisition of a software to manage monies dispersed from the OPM to implementing agencies, and this will be rolled out in this fiscal year. Madam Speaker, I think we all should give a round appreciation to the director of the Constituency Development Fund. I think we all can speak personally. We have seen and felt the changes.
Yes, yes.
And it is a step in the right direction. Madam Speaker, members, Jamaica. This team led by the Most Honorable Andrew Holness is committed to building Jamaica.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, we are adamant that when we have concluded this journey, Jamaica will be much better than we found her. That is our passion, Madam Speaker, to truly create a country of which we can be proud. We are leading the transformation, a people-centered transformation that will enable our country to take its rightful place as leaders in this digital world.
Assessed where we are now, and we have accelerated the pace of action to get to where we need to be. We know that a national digital identification card will unlock a whole new world for us as Jamaicans, where we use technology to fix and digitize our systems and our processes.
We are transforming the lives of Jamaicans, making our lives easier and bringing us into a new reality with boundless possibilities. When we think digital, then and only then can we make it happen. Madam Speaker, for more on how to think digital, you can go to the full presentation via the QR code. So in closing, let us join hands and heart across the aisle, right across Jamaica, to take advantage of the digital opportunities that now present itself. And in all, let us remember the words of our national song. Vow now, my heart, this island, as God and faith shall live. My work, my strength, my love, my loyalty to give. Oh, green isle of the Indies, Jamaica, strong and free. Our vows and loyal promises, our heartland, 'tis to thee. God bless Jamaica, land we love.
Madam Speaker, I certainly would like to thank the member from Southwest, St. Elizabeth, for his excellent presentation, and to thank also the member from Clarendon Southwest for his presentation. And at this time, Madam Speaker, I would ask for a postponement, a suspension of the debate on the sectoral until tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Members, the question before the House is that the sectoral debate be suspended until tomorrow, the 25th of May at 2 p.m. Members, 2 p.m. tomorrow, the 25th of May. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the recommittal of the item presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained to enable the Minister of Finance and the Public Service to take the first reading of the bill shortly entitled the Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act 2022.
Members, the question before the House is for the recommittal of the item presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained, to enable the Minister of Finance and Public Service to take the first reading of the bill shortly entitled the Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act 2022. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now move to introduce and have read a first time a bill shortly entitled the Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act 2022.
A bill shortly entitled the Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act 2022 read a first time.
I would hope so, Madam Speaker.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice of second reading of the bill. And Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I'll move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take second reading of the bill and to take it through its concluding stages.
Public business.
Madam Speaker, public business, we ask that the Minister will proceed to take the bill through its stages.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take second reading of the bill, notice of which I gave earlier, and also for me to take it through its concluding stages.
The question is for the standing orders members to be suspended to enable the Minister of Finance and Public Service to take second reading of the bill, notice of which he gave earlier, and also for him to take it through to its concluding stages. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Member.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in my budget presentation in March of 2022, I committed within the first quarter of the fiscal year to table and take through the bill entitled Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act 2022, which is designed to facilitate the Bank of Jamaica being the sole issuer of central bank digital currency, which has been named JAMDEX, and for it to be legally recognized as legal tender. Madam Speaker, as part of the government's digital transformation of the economy, the government is seeking to amend the Bank of Jamaica Act to facilitate the national issuance of central bank digital currency and to power the Bank of Jamaica, the BOJ, as the sole authority to issue central bank digital currency as legal tender. And I'll use CBDC interchangeably with central bank digital currency. Central bank digital currency can be defined as digital money denominated in the national unit of account of a country, in the case of Jamaica, dollars and cents. And it is legal tender and a digital electronic instrument that is a direct liability of the central bank. It is not to be confused with cryptocurrency, which is privately issued, generally not backed by a central authority, and does not perform all of the essential functions of money. The global trend is towards central bank digital currency, with several countries exploring CBDCs at one level or another. A few countries are already distributing CBDC to the public, notably in 2020, the People's Bank of China and the Central Bank of the Bahamas initiated the implementation of a CBDC, and in 2021, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank launched a CBDC called Dcash. Jamaica's digital currency follows a similar trajectory. Of note is that the Bank of Jamaica successfully conducted a pilot of the CBDC in August 2021, which ran until December 2021. Madam Speaker, the national rollout of the CBDC is scheduled for this quarter, and so it is therefore critical for the legislation to be passed prior to the national rollout. The implementation of CBDC is of great importance, as reinforced by the global COVID pandemic. It is anticipated that the potential benefits will the digitization of the Jamaican economy and greater financial inclusion, as it has the potential to bring the unbanked into the financial system. No bank account will be required to use CBDC. Instead, it will be accessed through a CBDC wallet that is issued by banks or authorized payment service providers. It is also anticipated that CBDC will lower the costs associated with providing a national means of payment and provide an alternative to the issuance of banknotes. Madam Speaker, CBDC will allow businesses more efficient cash management as it is instant and does not come with cash handling fees. Households and businesses will be able to use CBDC and to make payments and to store value. Madam Speaker, the scheme of the bill is, in essence, is to delete and replace references to note and coins in the Bank of Jamaica Act with the words notes, coins, and central bank digital currency, with a view to empower the Bank of Jamaica as the sole authority to issue CBDC and to recognize CBDC as legal tender. The bill also introduces new provisions to address specific concerns of CBDC as a digital form of the country's fiat currency, including provisions related to privacy and cybersecurity. As such, the bill mandates minimum cybersecurity standards for financial intermediaries. Madam Speaker, the bill also makes provision to protect consumers and provide safeguards against opportunities that may be created for unlawful surveillance or monitoring of individual transactions. Madam Speaker, allow me to go through the main elements of the bill in a clause-by-clause review. Clause 2 deals with amendment of Section 2 of the Principal Act by inserting a definition for central bank digital currency as follows. Central bank digital currency means a digital form of currency issued by the bank under Section 12, subsection 1, that is legal tender in electronic form in the island. Clause 3 deals with amendment of Section 5 of the Principal Act. Section 5 of the Act specifies the principal objectives and functions of the bank to include to issue and redeem notes and coins. The amendment seeks to expand the section to include central bank digital currency in subsection 2C by deleting the words notes and coins and substituting, therefore, the words notes, coins, and central bank digital currency. Clause 4 deals with amendment of Section 10 of the Principal Act. Section 10 of the Act provides for what is accepted as currency in Jamaica. The amendment seeks to expand the section to include CBDC in subsection 1, again by deleting the word notes and coins and substituting, therefore, the words notes, coins, and central bank digital currency. Clause 5 deals with amendment of Section 12 of the Principal Act. Section 12, subsection 1 gives the Bank of Jamaica the sole right to issue notes and coins. It is the intention that the bank will also be the sole issuer of central bank digital currency, and hence a similar deletion and substitution as just described is made there as well. In addition, Section 12 of the Principal Act is amended in subsection 2 by deleting subsection 2 and substituting, therefore, the following. No person other than the bank, and that is the Bank of Jamaica, shall issue in Jamaica notes, coins, or central bank digital currency, or B, any document or tokens payable to the bearer on demand having the appearance of or purporting to be or which are likely to pass as or be confused with notes, coins, or central bank digital currency issued by the bank. Madam Speaker, Clause 6 deals with amendment of Section 14 of the Principal Act. Section 14 addresses denominations and forms of notes and coins. The amendment seeks to expand Section 14 to include central bank digital currency in subsection 1A by deleting the words notes and coins and substituting, therefore, the words notes, coins, and central bank digital currency. Clause 7 deals with amendment of Section 15 of the Principal Act. Section 15 addresses notes and coins issued by the bank being legal tender. It is necessary to include central bank digital currency to be legal tender. Therefore, Section 15 is amended in subsection 1 by deleting the word "and" at the end of paragraph A and inserting the word "and" at the end of paragraph B, and inserting next after paragraph B, paragraph C as follows: if made in central bank digital currency shall be legal tender for the payment of any amount. Clause 8 deals with amendment of Section 19 of the Principal Act. Section 19 provides for the functions of the bank in relation to currency, which include printing of notes, minting of coins, and the issue, reissue, and redemption of notes and coins, and safe custody of unissued notes and coins, and safe custody and destruction of plates and paper for the printing of notes, and dies for the minting of coins. The functions outlined under this section will need to be expanded to include the minting and storage of CBDC. Therefore, Section 19 is amended by deleting the full stop at the end of paragraph C, substituting therefore a semicolon and inserting next after paragraph C the following: arrange for the minting and storage of central bank digital currency as subsection D, and subsection E, arrange for the issue, reissue, and redemption of central bank digital currency. Subsection F, arrange for the safe preparation, distribution, commissioning, or decommissioning of central bank digital currency plates. Clause 9 deals with the amendment of Section 21 of the Principal Act. Section 21 requires that the bank hold assets of an amount sufficient to cover the total number of notes and coins in circulation. It is necessary for this provision to be expanded to require reserve assets in relation to CBDC. Therefore, Section 21 of the Principal Act is amended in subsection 1 by deleting the words notes and coins and substituting therefore the words notes, coins, and central bank digital currency. Clause 10 deals with amendment of Section 45 of the Principal Act. Section 45 deals with power to make rules and guidelines. It is necessary to amend Section 45 to give the bank the power to develop guidelines for minimum cybersecurity standards for financial intermediaries to adhere to, as well as rules that govern the interaction between financial intermediaries and customers in the use of CBDC. Therefore, Section 45 of the Principal Act is amended in the marginal note by inserting the words "and rules" after the words "bylaws." Further, Section 45 is amended by renumbering the section as Section 45 subsection 1 and inserting the following as subsection 2. Without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1, the bank may, with the approval of the Minister, make rules to govern A, minimum cybersecurity standards for financial intermediaries, and B, the interaction between the intermediaries and customers in the use of central bank digital currency. Madam Speaker, Clause 11 deals with insertion of a new Section 45B in the Principal Act. The amendment seeks to give the bank the power to make regulations with the approval of the Minister of Finance by inserting next after Section 45A the following: the bank may, with the approval of the Minister, make regulations prescribing the framework under which central bank digital currency issued by the bank as legal tender is held or used by the public, and without limiting the generality of the foregoing, the regulations may provide for A, protecting consumer daily financial activity, B, guarding against opportunities that may be created for unlawful surveillance or monitoring of individual transactions, and C, mandating minimum cybersecurity requirements for the recipient of central bank digital currency. The regulations shall be subject to affirmative resolution. Finally, Madam Speaker, Clause 12 addressed a consequential amendment to the Proceeds of Crime Act. Section 55 of the Proceeds of Crime Act is amended in the definition of cash to include central bank digital currency as part of Jamaica's anti-money laundering and countering terrorist financing obligations. This is done by renumbering paragraphs B as paragraph C to G and inserting next after paragraph A central bank digital currency as defined in Section 2 of the Bank of Jamaica Act. In concluding, Madam Speaker, the key drivers for and growing interest in the issuance of CBDC are the increasing innovation in technology, along with the need to deliver money and payment to end users, both individuals and merchants, in a safe, secure, cost-effective, and efficient manner. And as I've said earlier, Madam Speaker, CBDC offers opportunity to deepen and broaden financial inclusion in Jamaica, bringing many of the unbanked into the financial system. Madam Speaker, as listed under the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons, the bill seeks to amend the BOJ Act to A, facilitate the national issuance outside of the pilot of central bank digital currency, and B, to empower the bank as the sole authority to issue CBDC as legal tender in Jamaica. The pilot project of the central bank digital currency has highlighted that there is great interest in CBDC, and so I seek the support of this Honourable House in passing this bill so we can proceed with the national rollout. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, the opposition doesn't have an objection to the thrust of this legislation. But I just have a couple of comments and one or two questions. First, recommendation that with the rollout that there be a very robust public education campaign. We are a very cash-centered economy. There is still some skepticism about the use of mobile wallets, and I think it's going to be very critical, particularly for the group that we want to bring in, the unbanked group, that they be educated about the benefits of a digital currency. Secondly, there have been concerns raised about the technology backbone being used by the BOJ for the digital currency. My understanding is they're not using the blockchain technology, and I wanted to find out from you what assurances you have or you can provide on the BOJ having the technological capability to ensure the security of this. And related to that, to monitor the minimum cybersecurity standards would also require the BOJ to build and develop those capacities, which would be something outside of their normal banking operations. And finally, I assume your barber who you transferred the $500 to, he can now redeem it once we have passed the legislation.
But we have it on the map, that's all right.
He can redeem it now? Oh, so it's already in effect. Okay.
Sorry,
no. Oh, go ahead.
Minister, I have just a couple of questions on the bill. The first question I have really, and I'm not taking it sequentially, relates to Clause 12 and the amendment to the Proceeds of Crime Act. It's difficult to fully visualize how central bank digital currency will work in practice. Does it bypass the banking system so that persons can effectively use it without having bank accounts, and through having some device, a phone, for example, where they can store it in a wallet or something, and can they transfer payments between themselves and others without having to have a bank account to use this CBDC? I'm not sure, but I'm interested in that, because I know that the expansion of the definition of cash in Section 55 of the Proceeds of Crimes Act would leave out of the net, so to speak, the cap on cash transactions in the Section 101A of the Proceeds of Crime Act. So the definition of cash that we're amending in Clause 12 is for the purposes of Part 5 of the Proceeds of Crime Act. The provision I'm referring to, Section 101A, which makes it unlawful to enter into cash transactions outside of the banking system in excess of $1 million per transaction, and it also prohibits splitting them up artificially to circumvent that cap. That has its own definition of cash, which this doesn't. You're not amending that. So I'm asking you, what is the rationale for not including that, and how does that protect the interests of anti-money laundering and law enforcement, given Jamaica being on the grey list and so on, for a new technology which is akin to cryptos but is issued by the central bank and therefore has the backing of the full faith and credit of the government of Jamaica, essentially, the Bank of Jamaica being the central bank, but is otherwise facilitating a whole new type of payment arrangement which the formal banking system doesn't currently provide for. How do you justify excluding the amendment to the definition of cash from the definition 101A? That's a question I have, and that's a policy question, really. The other point I wanted to ask in relation to Section 8, Clause 8 of the bill and the reference to minting and storage. In paragraph B, there's a reference to arranging for the minting of central bank digital currency. And in paragraph E, there's a reference to issuance, arranging for the issue of central bank digital currency. Minting is not a defined term in the bill, so as I can see. And it's juxtaposed in the following paragraph to the word issuing. And I was just wondering what minting means in this context and how does it differ from issuing central bank digital currency. And the other point I have is in clause 10, the new subsection 2. In 2A, it makes reference to financial in the new subsection 2, being added to section 45, this is in clause 10. 2A makes reference to financial intermediaries and minimum cyber security standards for financial intermediaries. And B talks about the interaction between intermediaries and customers. And I was wondering if those are different intermediaries. What A referring to financial intermediaries, B just referring to intermediaries, or if they're both intending to refer to the same thing, which is financial intermediaries, and if so, why have we not called them financial intermediaries in B? So that's really a drafting point, but it's not helpful, I think, to use two different ways of addressing it if it's intended to mean the same thing. So I'm interested in knowing what minting means in this context, how it differs from issuing, because we haven't defined what it means in the Act. And I'm interested to hear the policy answer to the issue on Section 101A of the Proceeds of Crime Act. Thank you, Minister.
Madam Speaker, I just rise to close the debate on this bill and respond to the comments and questions, very good comments and questions from the opposition spokesperson, well, a member from South East St. Andrew and the member from South St. Andrew. So, the first point on public education campaign, absolutely. We're going to have a very strong, the Bank of Jamaica is going to have to lead a pervasive, deep, wide public education campaign so that people don't misunderstand. I mean, Jamaica, we can be skeptical of new things and of technology, and there can be misunderstandings about how it works. So I absolutely agree with you on that. As far as the technological background is concerned, the Bank of Jamaica, in pursuing this path, had a very robust tender process where they opened themselves to lots of potential providers of the solution, and those were appropriately vetted, and the solution that has been implemented is one that meets all the standards that are required. I'm aware of other technologies that exist, but this has met all the requirements that the BOJ has set out, and certainly the pilot that was conducted supports the fact that the technology can deliver on the objectives that have been set by the BOJ. With respect to, I think you asked something about cybersecurity standards, right? Well, you're correct in that in-house all of that may not exist, but BOJ has a lot of service providers, and in this area will contract the best that Jamaica can acquire to provide the cybersecurity assurances that are needed to make this a success. As you know, cybersecurity evolves, and that's why having it in-house is not as, you might have it in-house, but you'll always have to supplement with outside expertise, because it's ever-changing, ever-increasing, new avenues of attack are opened. And so the same approach, that we take to cybersecurity today, we will have to take here and doubly so. With respect to the barber, there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. But allow me, I'm glad you asked me in this forum so I can clarify. In order to set up a link account, right? Link is offered by a bank. And to set up a link account, for the link account, you have to have a bank account. Okay? You set up a link account, and for me to get CBDC in my link account, I have to transfer Jamaican dollars to get my CBDC. So there, the transfer is happening. Okay? When I transfer CBDC to someone else, on the link platform, it means they have an NCB account, and it means that they can move Jamaican dollars into CBDC, and they can move CBDC into Jamaican dollars. For link, I want to make a differentiation between the link product and overall thrust. So when I transferred the CBDC, the $500 CBDC dollars to my barber, he was able to immediately transfer that into Jamaican dollars, and that became his credit. Right? So it does not depend on what this legislation does, is what the objects and reasons say. It allows us to go out of the narrow confines of the pilot, okay, for national issuance. And when you do that, you want to make it clear that the BOJ is the only legal authority able to do this. Or else if you don't do that, you're going to have copycats. So that is the purpose of it. Before this becomes nationally available, we have to put in the legislative teeth to ensure that the BOJ is the sole legal authority that can issue CBDC. Or else if you didn't do that, you'd have imitations, in the way that if you didn't make the BOJ the sole authority for the issue of notes and coins, you would have imitations. So that's the reason for it. But somebody with a links account can go from CBDC to Jamaican dollars to CBDC on their link platform. Okay, so I'm going to address that in a question that I believe the opposition leader asked, which is the next point, actually. So the central bank digital currency has been designed in such a way that, and this is where your later question on intermediaries comes up, we will have intermediaries who are financial institutions, but we expect to eventually have institutions that are not financial institutions, eventually. But even with financial institutions, the way it is set up is that you don't have to have a bank account to get CBDC. That is where we're going to that is where the policy or how the policy has been designed. All right, so CBDC, you don't require a bank account to have it. And I think that answers your first question or comment. With respect to, that's a very good question, with respect to not amending the $1 million, when the section in the Proceeds of Crime Act that limits cash transactions to $1 million. So it basically means, Well, it basically means that CBDC, you can transact over $1 million. But the way to think about it, though, member, is that it is CBDC. You remember, with CBDC, though it's on your phone, it's an account you have with some institution, whether it's a financial institution or otherwise. And in the same way that you can use your debit card, you can have more than $1 million in the bank and use your debit card to transfer any amounts from one account to another. That's the analogy. It's analogous.
Within the banking system, the cap doesn't apply. Correct. It's only outside cash system, cash has a cap.
Correct. So no, well, the CBDC transactions, if we're going to start with the banks, but the vision is that you'd have what you call authorized payment providers. And authorized payment providers are regulated by the BOJ. So the only persons who can offer CBDC wallets would be persons who are regulated, who come under the regulatory scrutiny of the Bank of Jamaica. Okay? So on that basis, if you have more than $1 million, you can transact in more than $1 million CBDC from one account to the other. Okay? With respect to minting and issuing, I'm advised minting has the ordinary grammatical meaning in the context in which it's used, and the technical difference between minting and issuing. You mint the word. You mint CBDC. When we did the pilot, we minted $200 and something million CBDC. What it really means, you remember that CBDC is based on complex, unreplicable technology. And the process of making CBDC requires extraordinary computing power, working non-stop for a particular period of time. And that process ends up creating CBDC. And so that is what is referred to as minting. The computer programs that are set on go for a particular period of time to create the amount of CBDC that's required. I remember when we say create, it is to create the let us call it the digital footprint of the CBDC, and which is based on deep technological and mathematical formulae. So that's what minting means. That computing process. And when we minted the first, it was an occasion where the media were invited and sat and watched the minting take place, shall we say. So it's an analogous it's an analogous process. It's not manufacturing in a physical sense. Yes.
But is it once minted? Is it now in issue, or does it?
No. Once it's minted, it's now in the possession of the BOJ. Just like when they mint coins. It's not a liability at that point. After it's minted, then the BOJ can issue it to its intermediaries, financial and non-financial, and then it becomes issued to the general public, and it becomes a liability of the central bank. Yeah? Thank you for asking those questions, because it allows me to illuminate for the public at large. And then you asked a question about clause 10 subsection 2, and I believe I answered it a little bit, in that the design is that eventually, I don't know if you recall, we brought up some legislation here about a year ago or sometime like that, where there's this concept of the authorized payment provider who now comes under the regulatory scrutiny of the BOJ. So the idea here is that you can eventually have persons who have large retail points of presence, as long as they subject themselves to the scrutiny of the BOJ and undergo the particular application procedures, they can become authorized payment providers, and as such become issuers, not issuers, but become intermediaries of CBDC with cash-in points, cash-out points, to facilitate the landscape of digital currency as we envisage it.
There's nothing in that language that suggests that they have to be regulated. So it's an undefined term.
Well, no, where it I mean, where that comes in other places that you can't under the legislation that designates authorized payment providers. It's clear that you can't be one of those unless you are regulated by the Bank of Jamaica. So, Madam Speaker, with that, I'll close debate on the bill and ask Madam Speaker, go ahead. Yes, it could be. It's a broader category. It's a broader category. So for the ones that are financial intermediaries or special cybersecurity standards because of the interplay with the banking system, but we'll also have to have it for the broad class of intermediaries which may emerge, and their customers. So the first one is just dealing with financial intermediaries, period, because you're commingling notes and coins with CBDC. You have a special set of arrangements for you. And then there's another set of arrangements for intermediaries who, non-financial and financial, who deal with customers.
Oh, so you're saying that the reference to...
A and B are dealing with two different...
So you're saying the reference in B to intermediaries would include financial intermediaries?
Yeah, the interaction between intermediaries and customers in the use of... Yes, it would include financial intermediaries. Yes.
And non-financial?
Yes. And this is dealing with the interaction with customers. We have to have a special set of cybersecurity regulations for that when you're interacting with customers.
We're not really in committee.
Can we do it in committee? Yeah. In committee. Yeah. So, Madam Speaker, I'd like to conclude the debate on the bill and ask that it be read a second time. And I know that we'll have things we want to discuss in committee. Thank you.
Members, the question is that the bill be read a second time. Those in favour? Those against?
Madam Speaker,
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Bank of Jamaica Act, read a second time.
Minister, I think Member Golding asked some very pertinent questions. And it's obvious that a lot... No, we're at committee stage, so take it.
Not committee yet. Not yet.
So sorry, I thought you were.
The House will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole House to consider the bill clause by clause.
Madam Speaker, before we go clause by clause, I just want to follow up on Member Golding's very pertinent question as to how it will operate. My understanding, Minister Clark, pertinent to what Member Golding is saying, is that if you see it like, say, euro, there are persons, institutions who may not accept euro or US dollars. Some people might want, say, pounds. I don't want your pound. But those who are willing to take pound, if you have pound, you can use pound to pay. And I suspect this is the same with digital currency. You take, for instance, develop a contractor who wants to pay his staff. Instead of paying the staff in cash, he can transfer 5,000, 16,000 using CBDC. That's all my understanding. The same, that staff can go to the bank and use the CBDC to pay for purchases from the supermarket. So that, in a sense, it's going to revolutionize payments, and so people eventually, you may not even need, once the whole society start using CBDC, then you don't even need to use currency as much as you now do. So to the extent that, say, as happened now, I beg my wife, lunch money. She sort of just give me something on my CBDC. So she don't actually give me cash. She gave me a 20,000 for lunch money for the week, and then I use that and say downstairs I pay for a drink, a queue using CBDC without having to come out with cash. Is that my understanding, Minister Clark? So in other words, whereas I would use cash to do payment, I just use, once the other person is using CBDC, I just use CBDC to pay.
Yes, it will serve the same purpose and be used interchangeably.
So I think, I don't know if that answers a few of your concerns.
I think we should sort of revert to the normal structure of committee. So when clause 12 arrives, I'll speak to the same point. Yeah, man.
Members, I now put clause 1. Those in favor? Those against? Those in favor?
I think you could put 2 to 9.
The ayes have it. I now put
No, there's a comment on clause 5. But go ahead. If you go 2 to 4.
2 to 4? Are we agreed in committee? I now put clauses 2, which include subsection A and B, to 4. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I now put clause 5. Those in favor?
Madam Speaker, a further amendment will be done at clause 5, which provides for an amendment to section 12. 12.3 speaks to the penalty in respect of the offence that is created for persons issuing notes, coins, and no CDB other than the central bank. I'm just waiting for the language from the CPC. So if you want to go, then it can be
Madam
recommitted.
Speaker, I just want to raise a procedural objection to how the proper form is for amendments to be spoken to in the debate and then introduced in committee, not to just come into committee. We have no amendment sheet. I have no idea. This is a new matter. It has not been raised. The Minister for Legal and Constitutional Affairs didn't participate in the debate, at least not with her mic on. So I think we should really stick to the proper procedures when we're doing this, because otherwise it can be problematic.
I agree with you. Madam, probably you could explain the amendment for us, for the committee.
Madam Chairman, just to say I take no issue with the comment of the member. It really was a matter I brought to the Minister's attention afterwards, because it was somewhat of an oversight in respect of the increase in that penalty. And you know, we've had issues being raised about amendments and the value of current penalties. So instead of waiting to come back, it's a simple amendment on which there is no issue. It's really bringing it to the current fine jurisdiction, regular jurisdiction of the parish court. But you are correct that there is a procedure. It's just in an effort not to have to come back again. And then also, should an offense be committed and a conviction, that there would be a proper sentence, and that we do not hear the criticism that what currently exists is out of date. But
is that sufficient?
Well, no, I'd like to hear what's being proposed.
Yes.
What are you proposing?
The fine is $50,000, so it's going up to $3 million, which is where they go.
And what about the term of imprisonment?
Let us just get it from the CPC.
That's a holding.
But what is it? Oh, you don't know the term of imprisonment that's being proposed? Right now it's 2 years.
3 years, which is how it is. So what we've been doing is standardizing matters in terms of jurisdiction in the parish court, unless a special statutory summary jurisdiction is created.
So you're proposing to change 50,000 to 3 million and 2 years to 3 years.
You're right. And then the other part has the 5 years in the circuit court.
And you're staying with 5 years in the circuit court?
Well, that would be a matter for policy. Yes. So the amendment to clause 5 would be to, the further amendment would be to delete the full stop at the end of paragraph B and substitute therefore a semicolon and then insert the following as subparagraph C. Open quotation C, by deleting from subparagraph 3B or 3A the words $1, $50,000 and substituting therefore 3A. $3 million, and 2 years, and substituting the words 3 years.
Maybe you should read that again, because you said 3B and it's not, it's 3A.
3A. By deleting from, let me start again. Further amendment to clause 5. Clause 5. 1, delete the full stop at the end of paragraph B and substitute therefore a semicolon. and insert the following subparagraph C as subparagraph C. C, by deleting from subparagraph 3A the words 1, 50,000, and substituting therefore the words 3 million, and 2 years and substituting therefore the words 3 years.
Member Golding, are you?
Yeah, I have no objection to the proposed amendment. I mean, again, the procedure wasn't properly followed, but, it is what it is. So I have no objection to the substance of it, yeah.
Thank you very much. So those in favor of clause 5 with the amendment, and the amendment is to clause 5A to delete the full stop at the end of paragraph B to substitute instead a semicolon, and at 3A where you have 50,000 to delete that and substitute $3,000, and then 2 years to 3 million, and then to delete 2 years and instead substitute 3 years. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. 6. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I now put clause 7. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I now put clause 9. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 10. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 11.
Madam Chairman, in respect of clause 11, the words issued by the central bank as legal tender may be superfluous, since the central bank digital currency is defined as it is in clause 2 to mean the digital form of currency issued by the bank under section 12.1, that is a legal tender in electronic form. So those words after currency up to tender between issued by the bank as legal tender really are superfluous.
Members, the amendment is
that they be deleted.
That we delete the words issued by the central bank as it is superfluous in the context.
Actually, the words being deleted are issued by the bank as legal tender.
Yes.
Those are the words that is being proposed to delete.
Right.
Yeah.
Those in favor?
Madam Chairman, may I just crave your indulgence?
The amendment is that the words be, which are considered superfluous, be amended. So we'll delete those
Deleted,
words.
yes.
From
the words issued by the bank as a legal tender.
Right.
By the bank as a legal
tender. By the Bank of Jamaica. Those in
no.
Issued by the bank. The bank. As legal tender. Very well.
Just one on subsection 2, where it has regulations made under subsection 1 shall be subject to affirmative resolution. The existing policy is that these resolutions are in this house for matters like this.
I believe that there are some regulations under the Bank of Jamaica Act that are subject to affirmative resolution, because effectively you are making new law. I mean, it's not like a tax statute where typically regulations are in the House of Representatives. But this is different. This is not really a fiscal matter. This is rules which are going to affect the public in how this thing is to be addressed. So I wouldn't be minded to change that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Senate can add value if they have a look at it, you know. So I wouldn't be shy of letting them be part of the approval.
It's not one I'm going to fight you on today.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially since I didn't have it in my speech.
Leave it as is.
Yeah, leave it as is.
So the only amendment is issued by the bank.
Yeah.
Those in favor?
Yeah.
Those against the ayes. I now put clause 10. Clause 12.
On that one,
As amended, because we amended 12.
No, we didn't amend 12.
We did. Right.
But the member from Northeast St. Andrew had made some comments at the beginning of the committee sitting, essentially saying, you know, how we understood it is that it would allow a contractor to pay his workers and so on. And that's my impression of it as well, is that it will facilitate payments from persons who are current. No, he wasn't. But I'm going from that and making the point that if we exclude central bank digital currency from the definition of cash in Section 101A of the Proceeds of Crime Act, we are enabling large transactions to be done, which may be outside of a formal payment system, the banking system. And the purpose of 101A was to eliminate the use of dirty money to do ordinary transactions in the economy above a certain size. Essentially, that's what it was for. So if this is going to become an alternative to cash in the future, we ought to be very careful about not having a cap on that, because it would enable scammers, extortionists, gun runners, etc., to enter into transactions. And we all know that one of the hallmarks of cryptocurrencies is that they are used to settle payments among participants in the underworld.
Remember, Golding, this is not cryptocurrency.
No,
that's
it
a very
isn't.
unfortunate reference.
Well, wait, hold
on.
on. Wait, please don't. I'm just making my point.
Minister, just allow him to.
Yeah. The difference between this and cryptocurrency, one of the primary differences, is that this is not minted in the private realm. This is minted by our central bank. So from that standpoint, it has the authority of being backed as currency of the country. It's legitimate money. And that's great. I'm just saying, because of the method by which it can be used, because of its digital nature and its very purpose, which is to facilitate unbanked persons being able to, if you don't be able to enter into transactions, if you bypass Section 101A in relation to it, I'm just suggesting to you that you may be creating a massive loophole by which transactions which are currently criminalized under our Proceeds of Crime Act would now be facilitated in a different form, a digital form, but a form which is very much akin to cash in the speed and quickness and ease by which it can be transferred. And I'm just raising this because Jamaica is vulnerable in this area. And we know we're on a grey list, and we have to be very careful that we don't, in our desire to be modern and digital, which we all endorse, that we don't make errors along the way that could haunt us in the future. So I'm just bringing that to the minister's attention, because I know this is a matter he feels very strongly about too, because he's the one who carries the mantle of trying to solve this problem, which is a heavy mantle. So that is why I raised it.
Member, through you, Madam Chair, I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying. Clause 12 is proposing to amend the definition of cash by inserting central bank digital currency.
That's right.
So it would achieve the very objective that you,
Let me explain why that isn't so. I'm glad you've asked that. All right. The definition that is being amended, which is in Section 55 of the Proceeds of Crime Act, which has a definition of cash, is a definition for the purposes of Part 4 of the Proceeds of Crime Act. The section that creates the limit on cash transactions is not in Part 4. It's in a different part, and it has its own definition of cash, which we are not amending. So that is why I raised it.
No, please. Member Golding, I don't doubt the sincerity of your concern. But on this point, I believe that
There's a misconceived.
I think it's misconceived. And let me explain. Let me explain why. The problem with large cash transactions is not due to the fact that the transactions are large in size. The problem with large cash transactions is that you have no record of them. That is a problem. Okay? No, that is the problem. It is a central problem. Okay? With central bank digital currency, similar to bank transfers, similar to checks, similar to debit cards, similar to credit cards, there is a record of the transaction and a record that the people transacting cannot erase. And therefore, it does not present the risks it does not represent the risk that cash represents. And the CBDC is in the custody of the financial institution, let us say, fully backed by the central bank. And what the person has the authority to do is to transfer from his account at the bank to someone else's account at the bank. Okay? And therefore, it's in a different category for the purposes of that section that you're referring to. It does not, believe me, it does not pose the risk to our AML environment. The central bank is the entity responsible. I mean, I have policy responsibility for it. The central bank has implementation responsibility for AML framework. And amending the central bank, which has the Central Bank Act, which has the central bank approval, and they're actually the persons who would have done a lot of work on this, in addition to the Ministry of Finance, AG, and CPC. There's no way that we would do something that would compromise AML. So the point is that, like other forms of transactions where large amounts are allowed, you can have large amounts in wire transfers, large amounts in direct bank transfers, large amounts in other forms, because there is a record of them. If there's a record of those transactions, and with CBDC, there is a record, there will be a record of the transactions. And the second point, which please don't, we can't allow for the public to confuse central bank digital currency with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is not issued by any central authority. It's issued by private persons, whereas central bank digital currency is issued by our own central bank and is legal tender and has a status that is quite different.
Can I ask, just let me ask a question in anticipation. Suppose, Minister, if a person takes over $1 million to the bank, they have to explain where they get this million cash. Mm-hmm. And it better be good explanation, otherwise the bank would report it to FID. Suppose, however, the person has in excess of $1 million in CBDC, $5 million, and they want to transfer it from their account to their normal account. It could be a lawyer who has $5 million, which normally if he took $5 million in cash, the bank would ask for explanation. Suppose he has $5 million CBDC paid for by his clients into his client's account. Would there be a query? Because if it was cash, there would be a query.
No, if it was cash, it would be illegal.
It would be
If
illegal.
it was cash, it would be illegal.
No, would it be illegal then if it was?
No, that's the point that
yes,
we're making.
That's the point.
The point we're making, and what the member is contending, is that it's not. It would not be illegal in CBDC.
Right.
And the big difference is that the challenge with cash, is that there's no record of the transaction. You don't know. It can be reported as coming from A or B when it actually came from C or D. And therefore, it offers the opportunity for nefarious activities to be hidden. Okay. The opportunity for hiding is not the same when it comes to CBDC as compared to cash, because like with other forms of transfers, there's a record. The reason why people doing nefarious activities do not use wire transfers, the scammers do not use wire transfers, they do not use credit cards, they do not use debit cards, is because there is a record. Right? The reason why they use cash is because there's no record. With CBDC, there is a record, as with other forms of transactions.
Yeah, just to be clear on one thing, though, the prohibition on large cash transactions is not directly related to the absence of there being a record, because if the person receiving the payment issues a receipt, and they could be a legitimate operator in the commercial space, it is still an illegal transaction. And the reason for it is because of the fact that cash can often be generated by illegal transactions which are themselves part of the illegal activities of the country. And persons who are involved in illegal transactions have a preference for cash because the banking system is ring-fenced to make it difficult for that type of money to come into the banking system. So I think the critical issue, the absence of a record is really one aspect of it, but it's also the fact that it lends itself, cash lends itself to being used by that type of activity. I'm just wanted to be clear, I just want to be clear in my own mind, and I'm sure we are all clear in here, that the CBDC universe is a universe that doesn't share with cash the propensity for being used for illegal transactions. That's really, not just because it generates a record, but because it is created, and the way it is minted originally and the way it is issued, and how it can be then used in the economy once it is issued, requires it always to be in an account for which there is proper diligence, proper AML procedures applicable to it. And that is what I just want to be clear on. That it will always be housed in an account by a regulated entity, whether it be a licensed financial institution or something else. I don't know what that other universe of intermediaries that can host these accounts will be. But it's important that whoever it is, that be something which is subject to the proper due diligence around AML requirements. Otherwise, it could become a problem. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I mean, just on the first point, just putting that to bed, right? I mean, cash is the preferred means for nefarious activities, okay? Because there isn't a record. And because there isn't a record, what it allows you to do, if accused that, oh, you got this money from X, you can say, no, I got it from Y. I have a dry cleaning business. Okay, so it allows, by saying no record, that's just the foundation. If there's no record, what it allows you to do is to substitute fake reasons that account for the accumulation of this cash that differ from the real reasons. Okay, that is why cash is preferred. That is why nefarious activities don't occur with bank transfer. By nefarious, we mean illicit drugs and so on. Don't occur, and lottery scamming, don't occur with, with bank transfers and other forms where you can identify payer and payee, and therefore if that is the payer, it's not a dry cleaning business, right, clearly, because that person didn't have that many suits, okay? So this, and I'm repeating myself here, CBDC offers the advantage, like CBDC transactions offer the advantage, like other transactions, not unique to CBDC, where there is a record. Now, to the assurance that you seek, as I said in the exchange and the questions and answers, that the institutions that will have the privilege of distributing CBDC or offering cash-in services and cash-out services will be institutions regulated by the central bank. Only institutions regulated by the central bank will have that privilege. And they could be financial institutions, or they could be in another regulatory category called authorized payment providers.
Just so I understand though, so if I have some CBDC and I pay it to you, some account with a regulated entity, if I make that payment, will be debited and an account credited in a formal regulated payment system?
Yes, yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
I want to. That is important.
Yes.
Because that differs from cash as we have previously known it.
Yes.
So we are at...
Worthwhile discussion.
Yes, I thank the leader of the opposition because I had the same concern myself in terms of the transfer. So, members, I now put clause 11 as amended. Those in favor? I now put clause 12. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Members, I now put the bill with two amendments. Amendment to clause 5 and the amendment to clause 11. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I also, members, want to put to the committee the title of the bill and the enacting clause. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now ask for a third reading of the bill.
1 second.
I thought the bill be read a third time. Yeah.
The question is that the bill be read a third time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Bank of Jamaica Act, read a third time and passed.
We had already indicated that the bill had been passed committee stage with two amendments.
That's it. Madam Speaker, it's not proposed to do any further business. I now ask that the House be adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday the 25th at 2 p.m.
The question before the House is that there be no further business. The House adjourns until tomorrow, Wednesday the 25th at 2 p.m. And members, this House will start at 2 p.m. Please, I'm asking you to come out for 2 p.m. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This House is now adjourned.